and gentlemen, welcome to Retro Warriors episode 327. As always, I'm your host, Justin Baker, and as always, I'm joined by resident old bastard, Chris Saturn.
Hello.
Hello, Saturn. Well, I was going to say we have housekeeping in that its guy isn't here.
Yeah. But nobody would have noticed that.
He would have only been on the pre-show, and I just realized just now we didn't even acknowledge the guy wasn't here on the pre-show again. We keep not acknowledging. Guy's not here this week.
He also, unfortunately, won't be here for the next episode, but we're hoping he'll be back after that, depending on his schedule.
Because I think he's due an after-party segment.
I believe so. Well, he would have to be because we're doing 4 episodes in a row without him.
Just ridiculous. Unacceptable. Yeah, he's off on vacation, so.
Yes.
Anyway,
his family, which is
my
important.
week, I've not. I'm still playing that same card game. Still playing Flesh and Blood, and that's what I do with my free time now. Is I get on my webcam and I play that, and that's what I've been doing. And I'm going to a big tournament for it tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for that. Nervous. I've never. It's like you probably don't know this about card games, but there are like real like tournament level you can win money tournaments, and then there are casual tournaments, right?
And
there's a very different air at a casual tournament as compared to like a tournament level tournament.
Sure.
And I've never played in any type of anything for this game, and I'm going straight into like a for real win money tournament.
Nice.
Expecting fully to lose badly.
Yeah.
And I'm just trying my darndest not to be real anxious about it, because I have to go be in a place with other humans and talk to them.
You sent me a video the other day that's just kind of like making fun of the worst of the fighting game community. I'm just imagining that behavior at your card game tournament, like people like just randomly ripping their shirts off and fronting at you.
Oh, yeah. Well, that was a Croby Cat video. He's the guy, for anybody that's seen any of the E3 Supercuts, he's the guy that does the E3 Supercuts. And he just does videos making fun of video games.
Everything, yeah.
No, it's honestly the few card game related things I've been to, people are usually pretty nice, like at the actual tournament level, because if you like make an ass of yourself, they'll just be like, you're disqualified, get out. You know what I mean? Like they don't play that at the like actual real tournaments. It's the ones that are just like dudes playing at a card store is where you see people showing their asses.
That's the ones where people randomly rip their shirts off.
Yeah, those are the ones, when you're just like, I win, and you Hulk Hogan your shirt off in the middle of a card store.
The only times I've ever seen somebody rip off their shirt and try to assert dominance from it is that video you sent me and the Yakuza games. I'm pretty sure in reality it doesn't happen.
Well, I don't want to totally rule it out. I'm going to laugh real hard if tomorrow I see some guy rip his shirt off. When I'm going to be like, Saturn was right. I'll have to text you and be like, Saturn, look, this guy ripped his shirt off. Oh, now he's realized that he's got to have no shirt, and there's 7 more rounds of this tournament, so he's trying to put the pieces back on, but it doesn't work. Oh, now he's crying. Oh, poor guy. It's very cold in here. And the AC's on blast,
Somebody's provided him a sweater.
Anyway, it is the first thing of this kind. It's kind of like akin to like a convention or something. You go to a convention hall, there's a bunch of other people there concerning some certain subject matter. It's the first like convention-like thing I've done since pre-COVID times.
Nice.
So I'm a little on edge about that.
Right.
But
I hear you.
We'll see. We'll see how it goes. What have you been doing?
Nice. Nothing. No, I have been playing the Castlevania Anniversary Collection.
Yes.
On my Xbox, playing the game that we're covering today.
Yes.
Actually. But also the other games in it, and it made me realize how much better Aria is than the other 2 GBA Castlevania games. It's because Circle.
Okay. So you said Aria. I think you meant to say Circle of the Moon.
I did not. So Circle is fine. It's a fine game, but it is a
fine game. I would say Circle of the Moon is a fine game. Yeah, absolutely.
Like 6 out of 10. Fine.
Okay. Well, no, I'm in fine, like very fine.
No, not that. So it's fine. It plays fine, but it's wonky and it's awkward, and it's clearly got some growing pains there. And then Harmony clears up a lot of that, and it's a little more smooth, and it looks a lot better. It looks less like a NES game that was hastily ported to GBA. But Harmony is just really dull. Like it's like mechanically everything is fine. There's nice music. There's the gameplay itself, the moment to moment is fine.
Yeah.
But then you end up with long stretches where nothing happens and there's not any good direction. You just end up roaming and there's no challenge at all.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just kind of is, it wears on you.
It's just
a little
there.
boring.
Not compelling is probably.
And then playing Aria after those was great. So I'm looking forward to us getting a chance to actually talk about that later.
I wonder how much that painted your view as compared to mine.
Oh,
but I guess we'll talk about that in a little bit.
Yeah, and then also I finished up ActRaiser. I can't remember if I said that last time or not, but it's good, and we'll talk about that more later too.
Yeah, that'll be next week.
And then I was trying to slowly chip away at the story on Disney Square Enix's Marvel's The Avengers.
Yes, how is that going?
Every time I get to even the slightest slow point, I'm just like, I'm going to stop here. This is a stopping point. And then the next time I turn it on, I'm like, oh, I'm already at a nice stopping point. I don't want to...
I'll just not start.
I don't want to dig in now when I'm already at a good stopping point. And it's gotten to the point where I never actually play the game because I don't want to end up in a situation where I can't easily exit the game. And that's telling me that maybe I'm just not enjoying the game that much.
I have a feeling that is also just not compelling for you. So, let's knock some news out.
Mm-hmm.
First up, Konami is holding a contest to allow indie devs to make new entries in many of their classic franchises. The contest winners might even get paid for their work.
Oh boy!
Big emphasis on might.
Yeah,
this is not how you run a game company.
The weird thing is when this was first announced, I saw all these really positive responses. They're like, oh, not only are we going to potentially get new entries in these classic franchises, but they'll be from indie devs that actually care about video games, unlike Konami.
Right.
And my first thought was, oh, so they're going to convince a lot of people to make games for them, but only pay specific people.
Yes.
Which is how it really reads to me. And that's really and
the ones that don't win will probably get C and D'd so that they have to not release their game.
Right, yeah. They have to, if they want to enter the game in the contest, they have to relinquish all potential IP rights to that game in progress.
What's frustrating is like breaking into game development in a meaningful way that is sustainable as a career is so difficult that you'd be stupid not to, and that's what frustrates me the most about this is like, if you're a fledgling developer and you don't want to just go like be another cog in a machine at like your nearest Ubisoft or whatever, and you're like, no, I want to create. I don't want to just be a QA guy for 10 years. Like I want to actually make games, and you have good ideas and the skill set, then just throwing your shit on Steam Greenlight. Well, they don't even have that anymore. It's whatever it is now. It's not going to get you anywhere, Right. But entering in this Konami contest could be a quick inroad.
Because even a mediocre game that has a Gradius logo on it is going to get more eyeballs than a good indie game, usually.
Yeah, than a good shmup that doesn't have Gradius's name on it. And so it's just I don't want to say they're exploiting people, but it feels like they're open to exploiting people, I guess is more... more accurate.
But I mean, just looking at Castlevania, the last developers for Castlevania was Mercury Steam, which were relatively unknown, and now they're making Metroid games.
Now they do the
clearly,
Metroids.
Just being attached to one of these franchises can definitely build a whole career, but it just feels like there's a better way to do this.
Yeah, or maybe, and you know what, to their credit, maybe they're going to go about it the right way and everyone's going to get compensated and it's going to be a little more on the up and up. We just don't know.
That's a real optimistic outlook for Konami.
It's possible.
Is it?
Capcom is targeting PC as their main platform for future titles, as well they should. Thank you, Capcom.
Especially after all of the backlash they got from the PC release of Resident Evil 8. I don't know if you read about that or not, but
no.
The Denuvo that they had attached to, I think it was Denuvo, it was one of the anti-piracy.
The shittier DRMs, yeah.
Whatever they had attached to it bogged the game down so bad that people who legally purchased the game were getting barely acceptable frame rates, while people who pirated it on day one, it was playing great.
Because Denuvo was stripped out,
immediately.
Dragon Quest X Offline Edition has been confirmed as releasing on PS4 and 5 and PC in addition to Switch. Still no suggestion of an international release. How much of your heart is broken?
None, because I had no expectations, so therefore they couldn't be shattered.
Oh, I
see. That's always been my secret. You see, as long as I never get my hopes up about anything ever, I never have to be disappointed.
Saturn, if you keep your shattered heart in a box where people can't see it, it doesn't mean it's not still shattered. It just means no one knows.
It's Schrodinger's heart, man.
It is both broken and unbroken.
Yeah, unbroken.
It seems, I don't know, with the success of Dragon Quest XI in Western markets, it seems like an easy thing to do to release it over here. At the same time, I imagine that as a single player offline experience, it's probably not a fantastic entry in the franchise.
Well, it's also a different genre than the original Dragon Quest X.
I mean, most MMOs, when you strip out the MMO portion of them, aren't fantastic RPGs.
Well, apparently it's going to play more as an action RPG. At least that's what it appeared to be from the video they showed. Plus, it has a completely different art style than the actual online game. It's more chibi art versus the more full-size art.
So this is more of like an adaptation than them just straight cutting content and stitching it together. Well, that's
so
good,
it's
at least.
Different game, but with the same story and some mechanics.
Then I can't imagine they wouldn't. I mean,
yeah, it just feels like this is the time to bring Dragon Quest X.
I know. I'm not nearly as big a Dragon Quest fan as you. I'm sure to the shock of everyone.
What?
But I feel like Dragon Quest is kind of bigger now than it ever has been. I mean, DQ11 got a ton of attention, and rightfully so.
Right.
And I feel like it's just now is the time, because I feel like we're still a ways from Dragon Quest 12. Dragon Quest 11 is kind of fading a little bit out of the spotlight it was in for a while.
And really now is the time for them to be re-releasing all the older games too. But you see them rushing towards that, don't you?
Yeah. Where's my Rocket Slime? Where is it? Rocket Slime HD collection on Switch. I'd pay $60 for it.
Slime.
If you put them all three in there. There's three of them? Right. Or they make four?
There's three.
Apple made more profit from video games in 2019 than Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft combined.
That's a lot of money.
So, yeah. And they're still not the biggest game company on Earth. I believe that's still... what's that one giant Chinese company?
Tencent?
Tencent. I believe they're still the biggest game company on Earth by like revenue.
And I believe that is a figure that came out in the Apple v Epic trial that is just increasingly embarrassing for all parties involved.
It is a pretty stark reminder that as games continue to evolve, it is the case that gaming, as you and I refer to gaming, is a niche now. Yes. We are in the niche, and I have shocking news for a lot of people. We've been there for like 10 years now.
Yeah, about 10 years.
And it's not going anywhere.
It also depends on how you define the gaming market. If you're referring to everyone who plays a game, or if you're referring to the people who dedicate their time and their headspace to gaming. Right. Because there are plenty of people... like if you're just looking at total revenue, the casual gamers that just play something on their phone for a while, that's where most of the money comes from.
Yes.
It's not us that follow every release and wait for E3 news every year. It's those people who play Candy Crush for a while, or even whatever is being advertised.
Even within, what is effectively, as we've established, niche gaming in the grand scheme of the market, I feel like most of the profit is in, and you and I both worked game retail. We know these people that would come in and get their yearly Assassin's Creed or Call of Duty or whatever their AAA title du jour was, and they would play that and then put their game console down until the next year when the next one comes out.
Right.
You know, and
it was the newest Madden, and it was the newest whatever FPS was in fashion at the time.
Yeah, and there are people that just do that, and even that is dramatically bigger than the rest of the game industry. You know,
not to mention the things in between those spectrums, where you have things like Minecraft and Fortnite and things that are still ludicrously profitable.
Yeah,
and are somewhere between those extremes before we even get to our little niche of the people
then
who
way
are
down at the bottom is us.
Yeah, those people are like, but if you look at the game design.
Yeah. So was that you making fun of yourself?
It was me making fun of myself. Thank you.
It's me, Saturn. So
I came out of my cave. That's what I sound like.
Oh, God. You sound like that little green guy from the Flintstones. Holy
the Greek Gazoo?
Yeah. So just kind of a reminder where, you know, like we were just sitting here, you know, complaining about them not bringing Dragon Quest X offline. I mean, in the grand scheme of Square Enix's money.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's hard to care about what is effectively such a small sliver of your profit, you know.
And I'm sure I was just complaining about how not excited I am about Avengers, but I would not at all be surprised if I learned that was the biggest chunk of their profit last year.
Yeah, for sure. Sony Europe is trialing allowing for demo play on PS5 games, but the timer starts before you finish downloading the game, which means it'll be over by the time their slow-ass servers download it.
Now, I've heard the PS5 downloads are comparable to Xbox and Steam downloads as far as speeds go. I'm not sure I believe it because I've had a PS4, I've had a PS Vita, I've had a PS3, and Sony hasn't figured it out yet. But I have heard from owners of PS5s, which I hear are not fictional devices, that it does download faster. So maybe.
I am. Well, that's good that one of the new PS5 features could be downloads at current world speeds. Finally.
Downloads at speeds faster than a DSL modem can provide.
The Kingdom Hearts series is coming to Switch as Sora is announced as the last DLC character for Smash Ultimate. Also, I believe these Kingdom Hearts games are cloud play. In other words, they're not coming to Switch, but you can pay to access them from your Switch.
Essentially, yeah.
If you so wish.
So they're all cloud-based games, and it is the 3 releases that are also on PS4 and Xbox, which I don't remember their names. I think it's like 1.5 and 2.5 and 2.8 and 3.
Each one is a math problem, and if you add them all together, you get pi.
Yeah,
that's the secret to the Kingdom Hearts naming scheme.
But it is neat that Sora ended up being the last character, even if I'm not the biggest Kingdom Hearts fan, in that I have never. So you're saying
you're excited for a spiky-haired swordsman?
I am. No. What I appreciate about it is, one, it is clear that Sakurai is a fan of the game and the character, so it was nice that the last character was something that
he liked.
Appreciated.
Yeah.
And his company is called Sora Limited. That's the company that makes Smash Brothers. So it's only poetic that the last character would also be called Sora.
Well, if only his company was called Goku Limited, then we could all live our dreams.
Gross.
And then finally, we could have the Dragon Quest hero fight Goku, and we can just settle this once and for all.
Hasn't he done that in one of the Dragon Ball comics? Hasn't he had like Dragon Quest heroes in the background more than a few times?
Oh, dude, I don't know. I have no idea.
I swear I've read that at some point.
Sony will no longer allow purchases with credit cards or PayPal on PS3 and PS Vita consoles, meaning I guess you could mail them a check or something. I don't really know.
They said gift cards. That's the only thing it'll take anymore.
I see.
Gift cards. Anything else is... And there was like brief confusion about this before everyone simultaneously realized that this means that their security certificate for the server that runs the PS3 and Vita is about to expire and they don't want to pay to renew it.
Yeah. Twitch got hacked. And we don't really have much more to say about that because neither one of us knows a damn thing about Twitch.
No.
But I just want to say this, and then I'll shut up. For all the people out there like, look at how much money this streamer made. Imagine how much money Amazon made off of all of these streamers making millions of dollars. Just please remember,
also very few of them made millions of. In fact, I think it was like less than 5 made anywhere above $1 million, and everybody else was in the hundreds of thousands. But even then, it was less than 30 or 40 that made more than 10,000.
Like, yes, some 20-somethings are making lots of money.
Yeah,
streaming for 60 hours a week with no vacations and no benefits and no sick days.
Yeah,
yes. Also, Amazon is. Can we, anyway, we'll move on. That's all I'll say. Valve released a teardown video of the Steam Deck, which is I know I've gushed about the Steam Deck, and I know people think I'm just going to shill for the Steam Deck, and I am, and I'm going to continue doing it because, listen, it is fucking unheard of for a company to release a teardown video of their own hardware before it comes out, especially when they so heavily recommend that you do not take it apart. In the video, the whole time, they kept saying, hey, we really don't recommend you do this, but this is how it works if you do. Also, this is why we don't recommend these individual things because of the hardware we're using.
Yeah.
And I know, I feel like that video, the fact that they made it and the way they made it is unheard of in the consumer electronics space.
It's also really encouraging because they treated us like adults in the video.
Yes.
They were like, this is exactly how you take it apart because you're all going to want to, but this is exactly why you shouldn't. It hurts, what was it, the shock resistance?
Well, they said when you open it, it hurts the structural integrity. They talked about the type of hard drive they use. They're like, hey, we recommend you don't replace this because we picked a specific one that doesn't get interference from nearby other hardware and doesn't interfere with your Wi-Fi. Like, we have specific. They're like, hey, this is how you take your joystick out. It's like 3 screws. It's easy to take out, but look, we don't use normal joysticks, so you need to wait till we have parts available if you are going to do this. It was just, it was like, I know it sounds so weird, but people, I cannot tell you how absolutely, earth-shattering, unheard of it is for consumer electronics to be like, here's how you take our whole thing. Like, could you imagine if Apple's like, here's the new iPhone and here's a 20-minute teardown video on how to take everything out of it. Like, people would be like, what the fuck is happening?
Speaking of, one thing I forgot to put in the news that happened this week is Microsoft announced that they are now pushing for right to repair for everybody.
Yes, and what I love is that it was due to shareholder pressure.
Yeah.
Of all things.
Right, and now they are already talking about manufacturing and selling individual component pieces for both the Surface and the Xbox.
Great news.
So we are about to enter a whole new world of being able to fix our own shit.
It has been, and I do want to give credit to the people and nonprofit entities that have been fighting for years,
like
the hard-fought legal battle of right to repair, getting to own your electronics. Like, I feel like a lot of people are just unaware of this, but it has been and will continue to be a very hard-fought legal battle that has been going on for years and years and years now. So, kudos to those two companies for taking a small step in the right direction.
Yeah.
Genesis shmup Glaylancer is coming to Switch.
Nice.
Along with every other shmup on Earth.
Yeah, right. I didn't see what new features, if any, it was going to have. It did look like there was going to be some sort of remix mode, but no pictures were available, at least when I was looking.
Yeah. And then finally, Dragon Quest series composer Koichi Sugiyama has died at the age of 90. A very complex individual.
Yeah, I will say you can separate the art from the artist, and he did make some excellent music, which is a lot of that music has been very important in my life, and I have several of these soundtracks laying around still. But he's also kind of been a bastard, and we shouldn't necessarily immediately jump to forgive him for all of that, but we can still mourn his passing regardless.
Right. complicated individual.
Still kind of a bastard.
With that, we're going to transition into our topic for the week, which is Castlevania Aria of Sorrow, because it's our spooky Halloween episode. Pablo, put in bat noises and lightning, not lightning, thunder.
No,
Thunder's the one that makes the
noise. Put in lightning, not the thunder.
Put in some lightning so it doesn't hurt anyone's ears. Maybe put in like a Frankenstein, noise.
Drop a whole Frankenstein in there.
Or like a mummy. That'd be good. Just get
Frankenberry cereal is coming your way. How about a monster for breakfast today?
What decade is this?
What do you mean? What? Frankensteins and mummies they're still relevant. They still make cereals of them.
They do.
Yeah. I have some. For those that don't know, Castlevania Aria of Sorrow is a game in which Bishonen anime characters traverse Dracula's castle in the distant future year of 2035 as Koji Igarashi attempts to make Igavania a thing for at least the fourth time. This game was developed by KCET and published by Konami.
Yeah, I was trying to find the KCET website. Apparently, it's still around. It's Konami Computer Entertainment Tokyo, by the way. And it is just all gambling equipment now.
Shocking.
Yeah.
It came out on the GBA worldwide early May 2003 at some point in that month.
Yeah, it was different weeks depending on which region you're in.
And also came out on GBA in the double pack with Harmony of Dissonance on one cart. It came out in North America and European regions in January and February of 2006, respectively. And it was released on Wii U in North America October 2014, Europe March 2015, and Japan August 2015. So in North America, it came out in the month of Halloween, and I assume Halloween in Europe and Japan is in March and August. So that's why it came out.
Seems right.
Those months there.
And then it finally re-released again on all the current consoles as part of the Advanced Collection a few weeks ago now.
Let's talk First Encounters. I think I played this when it was new. I think I did. I know I played Circle of the Moon because I was like, oh my God, this game, what a breath of fresh air. And I know, all right. I think I played this when it was new. I never really clicked with it. I was more into like a Castlevania DS and Order of Ecclesia. Those two DS. Did they make a third DS game, or is it just those two?
They did. There was three.
Portrait of Ruin. Portrait of Ruin was the other one.
Dawn of Sorrow, Portrait of Ruin, Order of Ecclesia.
Yes, those three I played. Portrait of Ruin I played a lot of. I really liked Portrait of Ruin.
That was a good one, yeah.
But I never really got super into Harmony or Aria. I know I played them, but they just weren't a big thing for me. And I do remember when the double pack came out, because I was working at GameStop at the time. That was my junior year of high school. And I remember thinking, like, I guess these games aren't very good. They're just smashing them into one cart and releasing it.
Oof.
Yeah. What about you, Saturn?
So I pre-ordered it because it was Castlevania. I had to. I was pretty big. Obviously I was a big fan of the series going back to the NES, but Symphony rekindled that interest. So I was super excited. Circle was the first game I got on my GBA when the system came out, and then I thought Circle was okay, but not playable on a GBA screen.
Correct.
And then Harmony came out, and it was slightly better, but I was still starting to think that maybe the series just had that one shining moment in Symphony and was never going to be as good again. But then I pre-ordered Aria anyway because I'm a sucker, and I was afraid to even play it for like a month, just because I was like, I don't want to be let down again. I don't have it in me.
This is back whenever you did get your heart broken regularly.
Right. Yeah, this is when I still had hopes.
Now it's in the box.
Yeah, it's in the box now. But no, so a friend of mine borrowed it from me just so that he could play through it until I got around to it.
Yeah.
And like a week into him having it, he was like, "This is the best Castlevania game yet." I'm like, "No, fuck you. Don't give me that." And he's like, "No, this is the best. You really should play it." I'm like, "I can't. You have my copy." He's like, "Oh, when I'm done, you should play it." And so I had to wait for him to finish, and then I played it, and I did really enjoy it.
Yeah. Well, let's talk development.
Yes, sir.
Of Aria of Sorrow. Tell me what they done did.
So they done did all this. So they obviously Symphony of the Night was a huge success on the PlayStation.
What?
Especially in Japan, but eventually also in the rest of the world. It was kind of a sleeper hit everywhere else.
For some reason, did better than the N64 game. I don't know why.
I can't imagine why. It's so weird. I mean, the N64 game has polygons, though. It has to have been better.
I know, right?
So they decided they wanted to make a follow-up to Symphony, and they decided the GBA would be the best platform because nobody was expecting 3D games on the GBA, so they couldn't get any guff for making another 2D game.
Right.
And so they decided the best way to follow up Symphony of the Night was to make sure that nobody that worked on Symphony of the Night worked on its successor.
Perfect plan, because those, you can't, lightning doesn't strike twice, right? So you got to get
they
new
already
people.
used them up.
Yeah, those people are... Those people, what a perfect encapsulation of the video game industry. We used up those people, ship them out, get some new people in here. I don't know why it did not occur to me until right now that Circle of the Moon was the next in the franchise from Symphony of the Night. In my head, for some reason, there was something in between, but there
was the second N64 Castlevania.
Right. I mean, a Castlevania game in between.
Right. No, there was
not a game with it in the title.
Right.
That had nothing to do with it.
All right. Also, I learned while I was researching all this that Circle of the Moon in Europe is just called Castlevania.
Oh.
And of course, also the N64 game was just called Castlevania. And for some reason, the first PS2 game was also just called Castlevania in Europe and Japan.
Yeah.
And so that has to be confusing over there.
Yeah, that's very weird.
I am glad that they gave them some subtitles over here.
Why wouldn't they give it?
It's just so weird. Like, I get the PS2 game in Japan being just called Castlevania because there was never a game before that called Castlevania in Japan.
Right. Yeah, it was Akamoto Dracula.
Right. But that one on PS2, they were like, oh, this one's just called Castlevania.
Okay.
It's just weird. Anyway, so after Circle of the Moon was fine, all right, they decided they would bring the Symphony of the Night team back together and allow them to work on a new game. So producer Koji Igarashi, or Iga, came back to make a follow-up Game Boy Castlevania game. And rather than just making a single new Castlevania game, the team decided to make two games at once.
So I see the Capcom Zelda situation here.
So they were making Harmony and Aria at the same time. And focusing more on Aria.
B team got Harmony, right? Is that what it was?
Honestly, it looked like it was the exact same people, just they finished that one first. Yeah. And then they published it, and they were like, oh, that's what people didn't like about that one. Quick, fix the other one.
Right.
So they wanted to separate Aria from the rest of the series, and so I saw this interview with Igarashi where he decided he wanted to set the game in the future instead of the past.
Yes.
And the interviewer is asking him, is there like a bunch of lasers and robots and everything? He says, no, it's still in a gothic castle. Which is true.
Yeah, and we haven't gotten to the story yet, but it takes place in 2035. Yeah. For no reason.
Exactly.
I mean,
and after I read him saying, no, it still takes place in a gothic castle, I was like, oh, it does. Why is this game in the future?
There's no reason for it at all.
So he did say in this interview that he took inspiration from a prediction that Nostradamus made of a big evil lord in 1999.
Oh, no, that was the name of Nostradamus' rock band, Big Evil Lord, touring in 1999.
Right. And also, he said that there had been a solar eclipse over Eastern Europe back in 99, so he decided to just mash that up and make it into a story.
In the future.
Right.
Well, I mean, I guess it's not 2035 yet, so we don't verifiably know
Yeah.
That's not what it's going to look like.
Right. Yeah, maybe back in 99, the castle was sucked into an eclipse. We don't know. Maybe
Possibly.
it happened. So for both Harmony and Aria, they got character designer Ayami Kojima to come back. She was the one who did all the art for Symphony as well. And in Aria, they were also able to bring back the composer of Symphony, which was Michiru Yamane. And because Harmony's soundtrack was kind of seen as meh, like it was fine but not great, and so they did bring back the composer Symphony, and man, was that a great move, because Aria has some of my absolute favorite tracks of the franchise, much less of just the GBA games.
Yeah. It's funny you say that, because I played it with headphones exclusively to listen to the soundtrack, and almost never noticed the music.
That's unfortunate.
Except for one of the saddest Bloody Tears renditions ever, like right at the end.
Oh, like at the end, yeah.
It was just, I was just like, oh, this is sad.
Yeah, that one was phoned in.
Like like one of the biggest track from the franchise, like biggest of the like one-winged angel of Castlevania, and it's just at the end it's like na na na, and you're like, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah, I think it's the servants' quarters music is my favorite in the game, but there's a handful in the game that are just excellent, so it's worth checking out. Obviously, you didn't care for it, but
I did not care for it. It didn't particularly grab me. There were some quarters where I was like, yeah, these are pretty good tunes. But yeah, I absolutely don't want to say it was bad, because at no point, except for that one, Bloody Tears rendition, like that one, I did notice and was like, oof, that's rough.
What a slow fart to end the game on, too.
Right. It was the very end of the game. It's just like, la la la. Da, 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 da. And you're like, are you trying? But no, the rest of it was fine.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Let's talk presentation, because I do want to talk about the character designs.
Yeah.
Because they're goofy as shit. Now, here's the thing. In Symphony of the Night, the character designer, Yami Kojima, her it works in Symphony.
Yeah.
Because Symphony's very steeped in that like super gothic kind of feel.
It's very mid 16th century gothic, or 17th century, whenever it's supposed to be.
In this one, you play an exchange student in the future.
Yeah.
And it does not work.
What, you mean everybody doesn't wear large white trench coats everywhere?
And then the character portraits look so dumb. They look dumb.
I thought they were fine.
Hammer is the dumbest one.
Okay, his is pretty dumb, but
he looks so dumb.
But like Soma and Mina and Arikado are all fine. They look fine.
And Graham, oh my god.
He has some weird looks. Like some of his, I feel like the transition from art to Game Boy did not survive.
No.
Because some of like his facial expressions,
they give him some very anime-looking expressions in some of these cutscenes, and it's like, oh, dude, this looks like bad. This is some like mid-90s Sailor Moon level expressions here going on.
Well, also it feels like they didn't adjust for the color palette either. So like various colors are smudging together. Yeah. And so it makes especially on Graham's face, it makes it look like it is a weird shape in several occasions. So
yeah, and it doesn't mesh with in the far-flung future of 2035.
Right.
Everyone looks like a Renaissance painting. It's just weird.
Whereas the art that she did for the game, when you look at it outside of the game, the actual still pictures she's done,
like out of context.
Great. Yeah, they're great. But yeah, I agree with within the context, it's a little weird.
Yeah, none of them are. I don't think any of them are. Well, Hammers is bad. I don't think any of the rest of them are bad on their own. It's just in this context of young foreign exchange student in the year 2035. You're like, this is weird.
Yeah,
it's just weird. Let's talk graphically.
Yeah.
I do think it's a pretty good looking game. I love they did some humongous sprites in this.
For a lot of the enemies just have
Yes.
huge, excellent sprites.
I think the big skull is kind of the iconic like giant sprite from Aria. I feel like that's the one I used to see in like screenshots and stuff in magazines, because it was just so huge and detailed. They also have like the demon sprites are really huge, but they look they look kind of mode 7'd out. You know, they look kind of like weird. And, like their animations are a little dopey, even though they're huge, which is cool.
Right.
But the big skull what a cool. That's
giant,
cool to see on a Game Boy screen.
Yeah, the giant ghost or the large skeleton.
The big skeleton too, I guess. I meant the big like ghost skull, the like flamey ghost skull.
Ghost,
just good looking game, really good looking game. I like it.
And also, I think it has an excellent color palette as far as the GBA goes, just because it looked good on both the original and the SP models of the system, which a lot of games didn't pull off very well.
They seem to figure out with Harmony and Aria to heavily outline your main character.
Exactly, yeah. That was a big thing.
I feel like you were outlined in Circle of the Moon, if I remember right, but it was just this tiny, thin little...
And also, it was a dark outline around a dark character with dark backgrounds.
Yeah, in Aria, you're blue.
Yeah, you basically glow all the time.
Yeah, and that helps. That helps so much.
Absolutely.
I will say the animation is all really smooth, and this is going to sound like the weirdest criticism. Some of it is almost too smooth.
Yeah.
Like the way like big swords and big weapons kind of swing out and move looks a little Flash animation-y. You know, it's a little goofy there.
I would say the goofiest animation is the big demons or devils or whatever they're called.
Yeah.
Because they have separate hand sprites from the rest of their body.
And you can really tell.
And it's hilarious.
Yeah, it comes out looking like some like mid-2000s Flash animation sometimes.
Yeah.
But the actual sprite work itself is very, very good. Very good stuff.
The actual character sprites, to me, feel like they might be a little bit smaller and less detailed than in Harmony. But I feel like the game actually benefits from that because it means that you have more real estate on the screen on which they can move because they're not taking up as much space.
You feel less cramped moving around.
Yeah. You don't get that Metroid 2 issue.
Right. Saturn, explain the fucking story to this game, because I played the goddamn thing and watched every cutscene, and I still don't get it.
All right. So there's spoilers abound here. So, all right. So at some point in 1999, that's the past.
Yes.
A guy named Julius Belmont raided Dracula's castle for what would be the last time. He was assisted by Dracula's son Alucard. And between the two of them, Julius put in motion a plan to trap Dracula's castle, also known as Castlevania, in an eclipse, preventing the castle or Dracula from resurrecting again.
Saturn, how does one trap something inside of an eclipse?
I don't think you can. I think that might have been where this game deviated from reality.
Oh, you mean literally at the beginning?
Yes. Also, I don't know why that would have prevented Dracula from resurrecting. Wouldn't he just be alive in the eclipse?
I don't know. You're telling me that a game set in 2035 with a foreign exchange student who's studying in Japan named Soma, who looks like a 16th century Gothic painting, going into an eclipse to fight Dracula is unrealistic.
Well, it's quasi-realistic. Let's say that.
No, it's not.
All right, so you have the castle. It's trapped in the eclipse now. And then 36 years later, like you said, we got this kid, Soma Cruz, is in Japan. He's a foreign exchange student, and he gets sucked into the eclipse with his friend Mina Hakuba. And so now they're in the eclipse. They were at a shrine in Japan, but now they're in an eclipse.
Can I just bitch about Mina for a minute?
Sure.
What? Why? Why is she there? What is she there for?
Character she is. She's there entirely to be a damsel in distress, and that.
You don't even save her at the end.
No,
she's like, I let myself out, and you're like, what the fuck?
And at the very beginning of the game, fucking Arcado saves her.
Yeah.
Like, Soma is mostly useless.
And he's like, I'll keep her in this safety bubble till you're done. Like,
why didn't you make the safety bubble earlier?
Yeah, why didn't you put a safety bubble around Soma while he goes through the castle?
Seriously. So they're in the eclipse, and now they're in Castlevania. And then this guy, Genya Arcado, who is in no way related to Arcado, He saves the kids from the skeletons, and there's I think some different skeletons.
Yeah.
And then Soma learns through this that he has the power to absorb monsters' souls, because that's a normal thing that kids have.
Yes.
Sometimes you can just absorb the souls of monsters.
Yep.
So Soma goes into the castle because he's supposed to save Mina or something.
It's kind of implied that he's trying to save Mina, but it's never stated, and by the end of it, you realize he was not at all.
Yeah, and even if he was, how would that have helped?
Yeah.
It's just Arakado's like, we'll go in the castle though. But why? You need to save her. I guess I better. And by the time Soma realizes this isn't helping anyone, or it's certainly not helping Mina anyway, it's just like, well, now there's all these other reasons to do it. So Soma goes in the castle, and he meets this guy, Graham, who is clearly mad with power.
Mm-hmm.
And he also meets Yoko Belnades, who is an agent of the Roman Catholic Church and also a descendant of Saifa Belnades. And you also find this amnesiac guy with a whip who goes by J.
Yes.
The
certainly
letter
not
J.
a Belmont.
No, certainly not.
Not with that whip and haircut.
Yeah. Also Hammer.
Yes, who runs the shop.
Yeah, and has a hammer, I believe.
Yeah.
And then it's discovered that Graham was born on the day Dracula was killed back in 1999. And so therefore he believes himself to be the reincarnation of Dracula and the inheritor of the castle and its powers.
Mm-hmm.
And Yoko asks Soma to help stop him because you can absorb souls. So therefore...
You're the one.
You do it. And Soma fails to save Yoko before Graham stabs her. But Arakado, who again is totally not Alucard,
yes,
shows up and helps her so that you can pursue Graham because Alucard is totally taking care of Yoko now. And then Jay just out of nowhere, you run into him and he's like, oh yeah, I'm Julius Belmont and I'm a vampire hunter.
He's like, I've not had my memories for 20 years. And he's like, oh, they came back today. Yeah. Today was the day.
Everything's good now. So anyway, I'm a vampire hunter. I'm going to kill Dracula. I'm going to kill the shit out of him. So if you see him, let him know I'm just going to kill the shit out of him.
At one point, he's like, oh, I remember who I am. I'm going to go get my extremely powerful Dracula killing whip somewhere in this castle.
Right.
Where? I'm not going to tell you, Soma Cruz, the person that's supposed to be saving everyone.
Right. Yeah, it's also I would like to note for the record, the localization on this game is just god awful.
It's bad.
I don't know if like Konami had fired all of their A team at this point, or if they were all really busy on MGS3 or something.
I can tell you by the premise of this game that they had fired people.
So even though the story is already weird and convoluted and kind of dumb, the translation makes it even worse, and nobody talks like they're humans in the English version.
Nor do they look human because of their character portraits.
Right. So by this point, it's clear that Soma just wants to get out. He wants him and Mina out and to leave. And that's when Graham tells him that he needs to kill Soma because Soma is absorbing too many of his monster souls.
Mm-hmm.
And so then you defeat Graham, and you don't absorb Graham's soul, but you do kill Graham because Graham doesn't have a soul, I guess. Or maybe he's not a monster. I'm not sure. I don't follow. But at that point, Soma magically realizes that he is the reincarnation of Dracula.
Assuming you've done all of the super secret tricks to get to the quote-unquote real ending.
True. You do have to have certain souls equipped. And then Arakado shows up, who, by this point, I think a couple of people have clearly revealed is, in fact, Alucard.
Right.
And he shows up.
At one point, you're talking to, I think it's Yoko.
Yeah.
And she's like, you mean Alucard? I mean, not Alucard.
Right, exactly.
And they spell out enough of his name in the text that you're like, oh.
Yeah.
Like they don't even try.
And it's even more apparent in Japan because Alucard is pronounced Arucardo.
Yeah.
And this guy is Aricardo.
Yeah.
You know, it's clever.
They're so smart.
Clever. Alucard shows up and is like, I always knew you were Dracula, and now you must accept your destiny by destroying Dracula.
Yes.
And so you have to go into the Chaos Realm. where Dracula keeps his pet Chaos, and you have to kill the Chaos before it turns Soma into Dracula.
At this point in the game, you're also just like, if you told me that we had to go fight the demon in the sun, then that, all right, whatever you fucking say,
sure.
man.
Let's just wrap it up, man. Let's wrap it up.
Okay, we have to go inside of evil itself through a cat's eyes and kill it with fire. Okay. Like,
done. Let's go. I'm on it. So along the way, you encounter Julius again, and Julius is like, well, it's my job to kill Dracula, and we all know you're Dracula now, so I got to kill you. And then you beat him because you have to. First of all, it's the hardest fucking fight in the game.
Oh my gosh, it's hard.
And then you eventually beat him, and then as soon as you beat him, he says, Soma says, "You let me win, didn't you?" As if that wasn't the hardest fucking fight in the game.
Yeah.
And he reveals, yes, he totally let Soma defeat him because he can tell you don't want to be Dracula, Mr. Dracula.
Yep.
And so then Soma goes and defeats Chaos, and everybody gets to go home, and at the end.
I have dramatic problems with this game's denouement. I know. It's shocking. To be fair, I feel like we've bitched about it so much. We're about to get to the good part of the game, which is the actual gameplay.
Right, I love this game. I've just bitched about the story a lot, but I love this game.
I want to say that, first of all, it's a Castlevania game in which you never fight Dracula.
Right, but you do go to Castlevania. That's what the name of the game is.
True, but that's like being like, oh yeah, well, you went to Bowser's castle. You didn't fight Bowser. Like, he should be there. He lives there. And so you go to Dracula's house and don't fight him.
Well, you are him, so you can't
I
fight.
know,
Right,
but
you're
my
to,
other
just
problem...
start stabbing yourself at one point?
Okay, they could just be like, you got to go in your heart and defeat
Yeah, I
Dracula in your soul. You'd fucking buy it. You'd be like, all right, yeah, you go in your soul. That makes sense.
The Graham fight is basically identical to the Dracula fight from Symphony and from Rondo. So if they did do that, it would just be identical to the Graham fight at that point.
Or they could just make it a slightly different Dracula fight, Saturn. They're game designers. This is their job.
There's a method. Dracula has to be fought this way.
But also, there's literally no purpose to Soma being Dracula.
Right.
It never
really
correlates. They could have just been like, oh yeah, Dracula's in the Chaos Realm. You have to go defeat Chaos to keep him sealed. It'd be the same story.
It would be the same story, yeah.
It makes no
however,
sense.
Spoiler, there's a sequel. Dawn of Sorrow builds on that, on the whole Soma being Dracula thing, by doing basically the same nothing that this one did.
It's as pointless as Mina. You're like, okay, I'm Dracula. Why? Why am I Dracula? Oh, because
I'm Mina.
And then at the end, Mina comes out and she says, I don't remember exactly what she says, but she says something like, oh yeah, I let myself out of the castle. Like,
it was we all got out. That's what she said.
Yeah, and someone's just like, oh good, that's why I almost killed myself and became Dracula to get you out, and then I forgot because I'm standing here on a cliff when you walk up to me, so obviously I fucking left you all there.
Right?
Oh, God. I feel like he's probably like trying to ditch all these people, and he's like, all right, the castle's gonna fucking like go back into the eclipse. If I just fucking leave, they all go with it.
What
country
is Soma from?
I don't know.
We know he's a foreign exchange student. They don't tell us.
He's from foreign land.
Yeah, he's from somewhere where Cruz is a more normal last name, I bet.
Let's talk gameplay.
Yes, sir.
Because of it's a search action game.
Yes, it is a Metroidvania, Hollow Knight clone, labyrinthine side scroller, Igavania.
Yes, as well. I'm sure you know. I followed a guide for most of the game, and multiple guides refer to this as an RPG.
It does have some RPG elements.
They say, well, the Castlevania RPGs. The RPG Castlevanias. I was like, oh, okay then.
Yeah, early on, before the term Metroidvania was established, that is how I saw them referred to more often. People would refer to Symphony and these GBA games as the RPG Castlevania games. Yeah. But then once the term Metroidvania came around, that pretty much died immediately. Nobody referred to them as RPGs anymore.
Which is weird because I feel like the search action Castlevania games at this point, like, don't more of them have RPG elements than don't?
Yeah, all of them did, of the search action games.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's a pretty, I don't know. And this is just me bitching about Metroidvania as a term again, but that's a pretty major delineating factor between Metroid and Castlevania that has a major difference on the actual game.
Yes, because you can grind your way to become stronger if you find something is too difficult, which is something you can't really do in Metroid.
Right. So, of course, you gain levels through killing enemies, gaining experience points.
Right.
You do level up, get stronger. There are different weapons you can use that both have different stats and are different types, so they attack differently, faster, slower, overhead, things like that.
Right.
And then there is equipment that you can find and equip to yourself to, enhance your
Boost
abilities
stats and all that. Yeah.
But the big defining feature of this one is the
souls.
Pokemon game inside of it, which is where you kill enemies to collect their souls.
Right. Yeah, you trap them in Sola balls.
Yeah. So you have 3 types of souls. You have bullet type souls, which are red. They're basically sub weapons. You can change out your sub weapon with these. Most of them are pretty, I don't want to say benign, but they're not super powerful.
Yeah, but then you get these handful that are just ludicrously powerful.
Yes.
Early game, I used axe armor a lot, just because it basically acts like the boomerang would in a normal Castlevania game.
In my original playthrough on GBA, I used it was a blue type soul, which are the Guardian souls. These ones are mapped to the R button. It was Bone Pillar, where you just breathe fire. Bone Pillar just annihilates shit.
Yeah.
And then when I was playing through on Switch, I could not get Bone Pillar to drop, so I used Buer, which is the spinny lion thing that just puts 2 fireballs around you.
Yeah, it's pretty good defense.
Guardian type souls, I feel like I used the most. I mean, by a wide margin.
See, I barely use them until I get Black Panther, and then I use it all the time.
Yeah, that's true. Does Black Panther even use MP? It's just a dash. I mean,
it uses so little MP that your MP regenerates as fast as it uses it.
And there are enchant type souls, which are yellow. They're passive souls. They either impart an ability to you or change your stats.
Right.
And then you have these are basically like the equipment you get in Metroid, the ability type souls. Yeah. And these are the ones that give you double jump or your slide or whatever additional ability that you need. Now, I will say that I did find effectively the mapping of some necessary abilities, some necessary movement abilities to the enchant soul types instead of just being fully passive, very frustrating.
You talking about Undyne and Scola?
Undyne and Scola. So these are the 2 souls that let you either swim underwater or walk on top of water.
Yeah, and those 2 are my biggest gameplay complaint about the entire game, because I get why they wanted to make them unequipable, because they made all these totally genius puzzles that revolved around either being on or under the water.
Well, no, I have a gameplay problem with even that assessment, because here's the thing. Why not just treat water as a regular ledge once you get these 2 water abilities and you hold down and jump, and then you're swimming, and then when you jump above it, you're walking? Why not do it that way? Everything would still work fine.
There were so many other ways they could have done it. But instead, they chose the most obtuse.
Yeah,
and that's the main reason I ever have to re-equip souls in the game, is because of those 2.
Right.
And
also being enchant type souls, they eat up one of your most useful soul slots, because normally you have like Headhunter or whatever equipped, which
or
boosts your
Succubus
stats dramatically. Yeah, and it's like you feel like you're having to map a necessary movement related ability like a double jump or a slide to one of your actual equipment slots, which is frustrating.
Right.
Beyond that, I will say that the actual soul system in a broad sense, I like changing my soul loadout and then doing different things, or if I have trouble with an area, kind of swapping out what I have and seeing if it works better or worse. And I think that's fun. I just think they didn't quite get it to the level of elegance it needed to be, to not be very frustrating in water zones.
I think they did do the souls a bit better in Dawn of Souls. I think that they refined that a bit. One nice thing about the original GBA release, anyway, that was removed from the Wii U and the Advanced Collection version was when you started to stockpile souls, you could trade them with other people. with a GBA link cable. So you really could Pokemon them.
Yeah.
And I ended up doing that the first time that I played the game. There were a handful that I just could not freaking get. And that same guy that borrowed my cartridge went out and bought another one just so he could play it again. And he was getting ones that I couldn't get, and I was getting ones that he couldn't get. And we were able to just trade and finish out our set.
Mm-hmm. And I will say that's kind of my other frustration with the Soul system, as much as it's hard because I do like it again.
Yeah.
But getting certain soul drops, and especially because the true ending of the game is unbeknownst to the player. There's no, unless you find some specific items, there's nothing to indicate that you haven't gotten the real ending. And getting the real ending requires farming specific souls and finishing the, in air quotes, final boss fight with specific souls equipped. And who knows how long it'll take for those souls to drop.
Well, fortunately, those 3 souls have the highest drop rate in the game.
You could have fucking fooled me then.
Yeah, I think it's like just over 10% on each of those.
And one of them is on Succubus, which is the most annoying enemy in the game, bar none.
It's pretty annoying until, well, once you have the good sword, it's not too bad. It's what, 3, 4 slashes?
Annoying. It's like 4 or 5.
Oh. Well, you were also much lower level than I
was quite a bit lower level.
Now, I do want to mention that sword because there's a sword you can get in a hidden area that is also a pain to get to.
Solis? Slice?
I was looking it up, and the proper Irish pronunciation was something like Clav Solish.
All right, then.
Which I surely butchered. But no, it's a ludicrously powered weapon that takes up, what, like a quarter of the screen, a third of the screen?
You hit everything.
And it does and it's holy elemental in the middle of Dracula's castle. So it does a ton of damage to everything. By the end of the game, it was doing like 450 to every enemy that I hit with it. And so it's just a ludicrously powerful weapon.
I will say actual castle traversal in this is nice. One of my big problems with search action games is very often that it's not, I've realized, it's not so much the backtracking, it's meticulously trudging back through really long hallways, and thankfully they have the teleportation system, which I think they used in prior games as well.
Yeah, they did.
That makes it easier. Also, the castle is just pretty nice and easy to traverse in general. It's well designed. Everything's laid out well. You're always kind of sort of driven where you need to be. There was only once or twice that I was like, I really am not sure where to go here.
Also, there's a lot of areas where things loop back into other areas. Well,
which is interestingly done.
Yeah, it's. I feel like they finally kind of got that map design right that they had started in Symphony, and Circle took a big step back there just because there were so few teleportation places that you always had to go across a bunch of the castle to get to one.
Yeah.
And then by the time they got to Aria, they figured out exactly how frequently they should put teleport rooms.
Yeah.
They figured out how regularly they should put some sort of bridge or connector between a new area and an old area. And it makes having to backtrack not nearly as painful as it otherwise would be.
Right. And I mean, really, in a search action game, the map is as much a character in the game as anything else, you know?
Right.
And I do think this one's really well designed. Yeah. My only other major gripe with the game is the boss battles. They range from being so dramatically easy that you're sitting there waiting on a second form that never comes, or so brutally difficult that I don't know how I'm actually supposed to beat them ever, no matter what.
The only one I tend to have real issues with is Balor, I think its name is.
Yes.
But even then, usually after a death or two, I figure out the pattern, and it's obnoxious and partially luck-based, but there is a pattern there to learn. The rest of them I can usually fumble my way through pretty well.
Balor is tough. Death is pretty tough if you don't have the... there's a soul you can use to get rid of his little baby sickles. But the death boss fight, I probably fought him maybe 20, 25 times. And then finally just got it on rewind on the advanced collection. The actual final boss fight with Chaos is also very frustrating. It's frustrating in that kind of in that it's unlike Balor, who's mostly
Just
pattern. But the problem is when he does hit, he hits way too hard.
Yeah, he
the
knocks
final
you
boss
across the
fight is
room.
just really annoying. You know what I mean? It's not like the final fight with Graham.
Yeah.
It's kind of stupid easy, but it's
Yeah.
at least satisfying in a way.
Right.
The final fight with Chaos is just annoying. You're just annoyed the whole time. It's so annoying.
When I finished it the other night, I guess I was so over level that I barely took any damage during that final boss.
Oh yeah,
fight.
no, I made ample use of rewind for that boss fight. Otherwise, I never would have made it. I did eventually. I realized I didn't have Succubus equipped because I think for the first portion you can't because the souls are sealed.
Right. Yeah, they do seal the souls.
And then I hadn't switched to Succubus for the second one because when you're on Succubus, all the adds that you hit with your sword add 5 life as well.
Exactly.
So I don't know. The bosses the bosses are pretty uneven in my experience of the
That's
game.
fair.
Like the first 4, I mean, I just brute force. I just stood there and hit them and just ate the damage because they just died immediately.
And it doesn't. A lot of the bosses reappear later as regular enemies too.
Yeah.
And you can tell which ones are going to be the actual difficult bosses because they're the ones that don't do that.
Yeah, for sure. I do think gameplay wise, it's a very solid search action game.
And I would also say that there's a lot of content there because after you finish the game, you unlock New Game Plus, you unlock Hard Mode, you unlock Boss Rush, and you unlock Julius Mode where you can play the game as Julius if you want a more traditional whip-based Castlevania experience.
Yeah, and he starts with all the abilities, and there's not even a pause menu for him. Like there's no stats. You don't open the menu. Nothing. You just get his thing.
Yeah, it's just like Richter Mode in Symphony was.
Yeah. Tell me about reception for Aria of Sorrow.
So, yeah, it reviewed very well. Famitsu had 36 out of 40. The Metacritic average is 91 out of 100. That's pretty high. It sold really well in the West. There was only 22,000 copies sold in Japan in its first month.
Oof.
Compared to 150,000 copies sold in U.S. They only listed in the first 90 days, but it was considered a success by Konami in the U.S. and Europe and not Japan.
Yeah.
Some people attributed that to it being the second game in the series to use the name Castlevania in Japan instead of Akamajo Dracula. So it's hard to say exactly what contributed to it not doing well in Japan, but it did not. And normally you would think that a handheld-based game with RPG elements would do pretty well in Japan. So it's not a good sign.
I wonder if maybe at the time it was lumped in more with the RPG side of things. And as far as RPGs go on the GBA, like
that's pretty weak.
It's got some pretty big boots to fill.
Competition, yeah.
But as far as being a search action game on the GBA, well, even then it still has some pretty major boots to fill.
You got some Metroids, you got some Castlevanias.
Yeah. So
the thing is that, Metroid was never all that popular in Japan either. So I wonder if just the search action genre is not popular over there.
I do kind of feel like, maybe it was because, man, and we've talked about it before, but the GBA was just such a megaton platform for certain genres.
Right.
That I wonder if maybe it just didn't do super well because there was just a lot of really good stuff to pick from.
Yeah.
Let's talk Legacy.
Yeah, so there was a mobile port of the game released in Europe in 2008. So this was before smartphones. This was a traditional feature phone. And it had apparently, and obviously I haven't been able to play this, but the reviews of it said that it had some pretty bad load times and downgraded graphics and sound, but otherwise was pretty faithful to the GBA game. Which that's
other than destroying everything, it was good.
Yeah, I'm really curious how it played, and I would love to hear from somebody who has actually played it on a old European feature phone.
Yeah.
Of course, as I mentioned earlier, there was a direct sequel, Castlevania Dawn of Sorrow, which was on the DS in late 2005. And they replaced the art style with a more traditional anime art.
And it feels goofy in a different way.
Right. And a lot of people think that maybe it was because Aria was not very successful in Japan that they went for that drastically different art style. but who knows?
I feel like there's a sea of difference between like Castlevania as presented by Shonen Jump and Castlevania as presented by a gothic painter. You know,
Right.
there's got to be a middle ground,
Right?
Let's talk final thoughts. I do, and I should note, I've learned over the years that as far as the search action Metroidvania genre goes, I'm not a gargantuan fan. I love Metroid, but outside of that, I don't play a lot of games in this genre. I found Aria to be very solid and fun and challenging. I don't know, like, if you're just going, hey, what's the best Metroidvania on GBA? I'm going to tell you it's Zero Mission. There's no way I'm not going to tell you that it's Zero Mission.
I would have a hard time deciding between Aria and Zero Mission.
But that said, Aria, I had a really good time with Aria. It was a lot of fun. I had a lot more pain points and frustration points compared to Zero Mission. If you're just like, hey, I can only buy one search action game on the GBA, I find Zero Mission to be less overall frustrating than I did Aria. But Aria, the high points were also very high.
I also wonder if part of that is your extreme aversion to grinding experience, because I feel like Aria expects you to grind from time to time. Well, not grind, but to at least kill everything in your path as you're going.
Well, I did.
Okay.
I mean, I wasn't like in the Chaos Zone specifically, which is really only like 10 rooms.
Right, yeah.
I did skip most of that stuff just because it was hurting me so bad that I was like, I'm not going to fucking make it. But yeah, no, I wasn't like zipping through stuff, not hitting things.
Weird. I'm trying to figure out how because you ended up quite a bit lower level than I was.
I'm so efficient, Saturn, that I took the most optimal paths at all times.
Oh, that must be it.
So,
but I do think that's a big difference when it comes to difficulty between Zero Mission and Aria. Is Zero Mission basically gives you the gear you're going to get, and if you want to go get extra energy tanks, you can, and that'll let you take a few more hits, but it's not going to make you any stronger.
Yeah.
Whereas in Aria, you can just go grind for a while, and not only will you get more health, you'll also become stronger, which makes everything easier.
I guess for me, more so than not necessary grind, but maybe the expectation of killing more trash mobs, I guess,
right. Yeah.
Is the weird kind of pain points with kind of uneven boss encounters, which could be, like you said, a side effect of the level I played the game at, but also like the Skola Undyne Soul situation was very, and I can't think of anything quite that level of fundamental annoying in Zero Mission.
That's true. I'll give you that.
But you know, I really enjoyed the game. I thought it was really good, and
I would definitely rank it as one of the best of its genre on GBA. I would also say it's one of the best of its genre in the Castlevania series.
Yeah.
And if you enjoyed it and you want something newer that is more of that, then Bloodstained is where you go. You can very clearly see the progression from Symphony to Aria to Bloodstained if you play each of them. So
I also have heard people rank Order of Ecclesia as like one of the top handful of Egavanias.
Yeah, or Ecclesia and Portrait, I would say, are both very, very good.
Yeah,
I would
think
actually
they're very, very expensive now, but
I probably
you know,
I'd edge Portrait over Ecclesia given the choice.
Yeah. Anywho, that's our show, and we hope that you enjoyed it muchly. And we also hope that you'll go to our Patreon at patreon.com/Retro Warriors, where you can get Talking Wizards, where we mostly talk about monster cereals. Lately.
Soon it'll not be Halloween time.
Yes. We also have, for people that maybe haven't realized, we have a Talking Wizards channel on the Discord now that is we set it as patrons only. And we only did that because for people that aren't patrons that don't get Talking Wizards,
it would be a very confusing channel.
Yeah, it would make no sense. Yeah. And it already kind of makes no sense. But yeah, you can also get uncut early access to the show. We would also love it if you would rate and review the show on whatever you listen to us on. If you just download it directly off of our RSS feed and listen to it on your MP3 player, then just yell out your window, Retro Warriors is a good show. And then that's how you rate and review
you
an
just
MP3.
You just march through the mall shouting, Retro Warriors is a 5 out of 7.
Or if you don't like the show, you can just yell Retro Warriors sucks out your front window as well.
That's true. That is an option.
You know, we don't want
We'd
you
prefer you didn't, but
Right.
if that's how you feel.
If we had to
can't stop you.
choose.
Yeah.
Anyway, we do want to thank the following patrons, starting with Andrew Scalf,
And Lee Sparks,
Mike Rotondo,
STG the Mr. Guy,
Saturn's Sad HJ,
gross. Pogs are back.
Casey McGinty,
George McBain,
Chris Minochi,
and Novocaine FS.
are all the people that make this show possible, and we thank them from the bottom of our hearts, and we thank you for listening. We'll be back next week with a slightly less spooky episode. I know this was so scary for people.
Scary.
Hopefully you made it through.
We talked about demons and succubi and I think a ghost.
It might have been scary if Dracula showed up at some point, but it's only a Castlevania game.
There was a Dracula, but you were the Dracula all along.
Oh, no! Anyway, thank you so much for listening. We'll be back next week. And as always, let us cling together.